Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you my most basic budget for absolute beginners. This is something that I used when I first started out budgeting my life, and hopefully it will be helpful to you too. Alright, if you're new here, I'm Claire, and this channel is all about mom stuff, lady stuff, and life stuff, so definitely hit that subscribe button down below if you're into any of that. And I do make financial videos from time to time. I've actually been doing like a series. This one isn't part of the series, it's just a little budget video thrown in there for you guys. So when I was first out on my own and having to figure out how to like deal with my money, the biggest problem I found is that I had a hard time knowing how much I could actually spend on things that weren't bills out of every paycheck. Sometimes I would get a really large paycheck and think, wow, I only have like my electricity bill coming up in a few days, so I can spend this. And even though I was making like pretty decent money, I never had any. And I always had to put things on my credit cards, and it got really out of control really quickly. So I tried a couple different methods, and I kind of figured one out that worked really well for me. It really showed me how much actual money I had to work with, not only on a daily, weekly, monthly, but like further than that, because sometimes like I didn't realize that sometimes I'm gonna have to save some money from this paycheck to pay for a bill that might even be due next month. So I kind of developed this way of looking at my bills. Obviously, this is when I was just a single person. This isn't budgeting for a whole family, but you could really easily take this sort of method and apply it to your own situation with however many incomes your family has, or how many people you know, you're paying for, I guess. I do want to point out that this budget does not include gas. It does not include groceries or food or anything like that. This is just a bare bones what I need to pay to like stay afloat as an adult sort of way of looking at it. So hopefully you get something out of this, because it really saved me for many years, and I know the only reason I am in the position I'm in now is because of the really good decisions I made as a young person. Alright you guys, the first thing you're gonna need is a piece of paper, and you're just gonna write the block of months on it that you're going to be working with. I'm gonna choose the first quarter of the year, January, February, and March. Alright, now on a separate piece of paper, I'm going to write down all of the bills that I have in a month. Now these numbers are kind of inspired by the way that my bills used to look a long time ago when I first kind of used this method, but these numbers are made up. These numbers are going to look different, for everybody. Alright, so here is a list of all of the bills that I am responsible for in a month. The next step is to write the due date of each thing next to it. And it's really important that you know the exact due date and you're not guessing. So if you don't know the exact due dates on some of these things, you need to find out. So now I have the due date written next to each bill. The next thing I like to do, although not completely necessary, you'll see why later, is then also write down the amount that these things are on average. Obviously things like electricity and heat will change depending on the time of year, but you're just going to want to estimate that. You'll notice that under credit card I've put a question mark, and that is because at least for me, the credit card payment is never the same each month. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's nothing, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes. Next, I'm going to put this aside and go back to my months page right here. And next, I want you to get your calendar out and find out the days in these 3 months, or your months of choice, that you get paid, and write them down underneath. the month. So for me, that would be the 11th and the 25th of January, the 8th and the 22nd of February, and the 8th and the 22nd of March. All right, I like to put a box around them, but you can set this up kind of however you want. You can make it really pretty if you want to. Next, put your bill sheet next to each of the dates, and you go one by one, each of your bills, and put them in the category of paycheck that is going to need to be used to pay that bill. And the reason this is helpful is when I first started out, a lot of times I would think, hey, I have a ton of extra money on this paycheck, not realizing that, hey, maybe my rent or my mortgage is going to have to be paid for the next month with previous month's money. And that's why I like to do more than 1 month at once. So the first item I have is my mortgage, which is due on the 1st of each month. Now, because it's due on the 1st, I'm going to have to pay the mortgage with the previous paycheck of the previous month. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that out. So my mortgage will have to be paid on the 25th for February, on the 22nd, and then it's also going to need to be paid on the 22nd of March for April, which is not written down, but is important to keep in mind. Now I'm gonna go down the list, heat, electricity, internet, Netflix, and fill out where they must go depending on the date in which they are due. Alright, so once you have transferred every bill over on here, I always like to go through each one and make sure, put like a check mark next to each one to make sure I'm completely covered. And of course, I don't know if you're like me, but I have horrible handwriting and I don't try at all and it looks crazy. So once I have it all filled out with all of these, I go ahead and I transfer it to another paper where I use a ruler and I'll try to make it look really nice. So I've done that right here. And you'll notice that I also referenced this sheet with that amount, and I put the amount of each bill underneath it. You know, $20 for internet, $50 for the student loan, and the only amount I did not include is the credit card because that varies so much. And then I put the total of this amount of money owed out of this paycheck on the side, and I highlighted it. Now, it is $470 plus X, and the reason that X exists is, of course, because of the credit card. I always found that this was a really nice reference because the second I got paid, I could immediately look at it and kind of have an idea of what I really had in the way of wiggle room and kind of what I didn't, especially if I know that out of the second paycheck is going to be so much more. I might need to save some money out of this paycheck and pay it right here. And of course, once you have this filled out, it's really easy. On the 11th, on the 25th, on the 8th, on the 22nd, on all of these paydays for me, I will get this sheet out. I will go through, pay each thing, and cross it off once I have paid it off. Alright you guys, I hope that method totally made sense to you. Another thing I like to do once I have the page all written out and all beautiful, and I still do this, is I put it in a page protector and I keep it in a notebook. I also have a list of like my goals financially for the year. I also have like a list of my usernames and passwords for all of my online accounts when I pay my bills online. Because back in the day, it used to be I went to pay it and then I couldn't remember my password, and so I just pushed it on my to-do list and it never got done. So having that list right in the same spot really helps me as well. Once you really get used to this method and do it for a few months, you'll really start to see patterns in kind of what you spend and how much you have left, and it will be much easier to live within your means. And even now, all these years later, I still use a variation of this sort of method of organizing how I need to pay my bills. Of course, now we're dealing with a little more money. I'm married, I have, you know, more bills, but more income and multiple incomes, so it's made it a little bit more complicated, but I still use the same method. Another thing this method really helped me with was avoiding all of those late fees I was acquiring. Even though I had the money, I never paid things on time because I wasn't paying attention to when things were due. And it seems really simple, but I've been there and I know that that stuff can add up really quickly and also really hurt your credit. So this is also a good way to keep that under control, and also your credit card debt, because if you're paying things on time and you have money allocated for the things that are important, you're way less likely to have to throw those things on a credit card. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you're into finance videos, I have quite a few of them. I will leave a playlist of all of them down below if you're into it, and you can of course look forward to more of that kind of thing from me. So hit that subscribe button if you're into it. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. I post new videos every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Bye!